Elder Barawak presents Nazarene Hebrew Institute of Technology.
I'm a living sacrifice. I chose to be a service to the people that be hurting. Lord knows I don't deserve this life. I've been searching and I found that I'm just here to serve a purpose. Listen, I'm a living sacrifice. Y'all don't understand, it was all in this plan. I'm just here to help you get it right. No, I'm not your average Israelite, cause I am the light. Who I am in this flesh ain't important at all. I'm just here to save as many as I can till I'm gone. Everybody got a lane, I just stay in my own. I never worry about the next and what they got going on. God gave me a mission, so I move a little different. Everything I say and do, it ain't me, it's the spirit. Yeah, that be God that you hearing. He uses me as a vessel. When he wanna take control, I don't fight, I just let him. I sacrifice my carnal life so I can do this work. I'm trying to save a few souls before I leave this earth. I hope and pray that when you hear this, you digest these lyrics. Just know we out here in these trenches, no square business. I'm a living sacrifice. I chose to be a service to the people that be hurting. Lord knows I don't deserve this life. I've been searching and I found that I'm just here to serve a purpose. Listen, I'm a living sacrifice. Y'all don't understand, it was all in this plan. I'm just here to help you get it right. No, I'm not your average Israelite, cause I am the light. Most of these Israelites do it for the image. They talk bad about them Christians, but they ain't no different. Modern day Pharisees is what they are. All they talk about is law, but don't be showing love at all. find it kinda funny how they claim to follow Christ. You a wolf in sheep's clothing, I can see it in your eyes, boy. Quit with all them lies, boy. Narrow is the way, you can't play on both sides, boy. Living double lies, boy. I sacrifice my carnal life so I can do this work. I'm trying to save a few souls before I leave this earth. I hope and pray that when you hear this, you digest these lyrics. Just know we out here in these trenches, no square business. I'm a living sacrifice. I chose to be a service to the people that be hurting. Lord knows I don't deserve this life. I've been searching and I found that I'm just here to serve a purpose. Listen, I'm a living sacrifice. Y'all don't understand, it was all in this plan. I'm just here to help you get it right. No, I'm not your average Israelite, cause I am the light.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Shabbat to everybody. This is Nazarene Hebrew Institute of Technology. We are not affiliated with any camps or hate groups. It is a pleasure and honor to have my brother Zion Lexx on, and he will be doing a presentation on the biblical Hebrew, and then he'll leave some time to answer a few questions. I want to say this real quick. Our ministry, a small ministry, small channel. And I have interviewed, and just before I read the summary of his bio, I've interviewed Tudor Parford, Doug Petrovich, Harry Rosenberg, Shar Amadel, Rabbi Demoda, Rabbi Mordecai, who else am I forgetting? Remy Iola, and there's a few more I maybe forgot. And Edith Bruder will be coming up soon as well. But I put this brother in the category of scholars. And I've been watching him for 9 years since I've been home. Y'all know my story of incarceration of our ministry started in prison. And I've been watching this brother. When I came home, I fact checked a lot of stuff I was taught from my brother in Yashai versus what Zion was teaching. I will say this, my top 5, as always, y'all know I always say this, Zion Lexx, Divine Prospect, Dante Forson, Ben Israel, and my brother, of course, Yashai, even though we have our differences. But those are the 5 brothers that I have fact-checked and researched information that they brought out during YouTube. And I never met Zion, but I've always wanted to meet him and have him on. So I'm going to read a summary and then open the floor up for him. Please, family, I know some of y'all, we've been learning this Hebrew, and we know we have questions, but I'm telling you, it's very important that we learn this. I'm moving towards it. I think it's for conversational. It's very, very important. I want to just summarize. Nasi Avadal ben Levi, Zion Lexx, is an accomplished Hebrew linguistic etymologist, historian, author of 8 books, founder and president of the Learn Torah Hebrew Academy, award-recognized scholar, documentary film contributor, international educator, and a mentor to athletes and political leaders. His life work is dedicated to restoring Hebraic knowledge and advancing Torah scholarship and educating communities through disciplined study, historical truth, esoteric understanding, cementing his role as leading voice and complementary leadership scholarship. Now, I'm going to open the floor up so Zion can give you all a brief of who he is. And definitely, again, my brother, Shalom. It's a blessing to have you on.
Well, shalom to you. Shalom to your platform. Elder Barak. I'm grateful. I'm honored to have shared this space and have this invite. I think that any opportunity that is afforded to us to speak the truth of our culture, our history, and our heritage, all for the sake of the glory and praise of the Almighty and the upliftment of His people. Anytime opportunity affords you to do that, that's a powerful moment. And so this is special for me. I also want to say, um, giving all honor and praise to the Holy One of Israel, the God of our ancient forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. We say of that God that He is the true and the living God, even the Most High God. We say that He is our creator, He's our maker, He's our owner, He's our possessor, and to Him belongs the life of all worlds. And in His name we pray. Um, this has been a long journey for me, very, very long journey. I am a husband, I am a father, I am also a son. I am also active in the community as a teacher, as a leader with varied skill sets. I come into the Israelite awakening in February 1994. At that time, I'm 14 years of age. I turned 15 that year, about November. So from February 1994 till present day, I've always known myself as an Israelite. So that's 32 years of this walk and this journey. And with such a lengthy journey, you see a lot. You see some of the people that you love. You see the Creator do different things with them, some towards His glory, some towards the opposite direction of His glory. You see that leaders that you look up to, some excel and go beyond where they were at when you met them, and some fall off. You know, with all that in mind, I could definitely say that the words of the Bible is always true. It's always man that has to catch up, because the Torah says the race is not to the swift, nor to him who is strong, but to he or she who endures. And I could certainly say, being in this way of life for 3 decades now, that I've seen some come, I've seen some go. And so I understand that it's to him who endures. And I thank the Almighty God for His mercy and His love, because I don't think that I've endured because of my righteousness. I don't think that any of us endure because of our righteousness. I think that when we are put on a scale, all of us are found wanting. All of us could do better. So I think that it's towards the glory of God, the mercy of God, and the love of God that we are all here today. And so this is a powerful moment for me. I get to share in a community space that I'm unfamiliar with, and it's possibly unfamiliar with me. And so I apologize for the somewhat lengthy introduction, but I'm your brother, Avdiel Ben Levi. I chose that Hebrew name in the year 1994. I would later be renamed Chief Avdiel Ben Levi, which is a leader in the community. I would also receive the title of Moreh, and then I now head an academy, an online academy, entitled Learn Torah Hebrew Academy, where I am the president, or in Hebrew, the Nasi of the academy. And again, all towards the praise and glory of the Father, the Holy One of Israel. With that being said, you know, I'm available for where we're going to begin this conversation. So where'd you like to begin? I know we're probably going to go into some Q&A before I get into the PowerPoint presentation. So whether you want to take that from the audience now, or whether you have some questions in mind now, I think it'd be a great idea to warm up the conversation with some questions or maybe any statements you want to make, and then I can segue into the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. All right. So, family, yes, any of y'all are here, you have any questions? This is the floor. Y'all, any of y'all have any questions? We can get it started. I'll lead off. One thing I've learned so far, I've told you guys before we even met Zion today, me and my wife has always talked about joining his Hebrew class a couple of years ago, right? And me learning this Lashon Kodash, I didn't take it as serious. And I'm just being honest, it's my profession. I didn't take it as serious because I felt in my spirit that the conversation, we could never hold conversations So when I heard Zion do his teaching on the other channel, and he said, conversational Hebrew is well, it's important as well. Like if we talk to our family members and friends, we can't just talk scripture all day. We did need to hold the tongue. And I felt like what we learned, or what we learning in the Lashon Kodash, and I'll get to my question real quick. What we learning is just the Hebrew that we think that the foul points was an issue, and the Yiddish was an issue. I was taught that the Hebrew that the biblical Hebrew that spoke of is Yiddish. So my question to you is something that stood out to me was the vowel points. The vowel points, which came later. And my question is, you mentioned in the last class that I seen that vowels, not vowel points, but vowels was in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So can you touch a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So consonants roughly represent the skeleton or the body of any given language, right? The letters represent the skeleton of the body. The vowels is the soul. So just as you don't have a body without a soul, you don't have language without vocalization, vowels. Even the system we embrace in the Israelite community, or the system that is embraced by the masses in the Israelite community, which is surnamed Lashon Kodash, that system doesn't negate vowels, it just reduces them to 2. So you often hear people say, oh, the ancient Hebrew didn't have vowels. But then when they speak Lashon Kodash, you hear them say ah. You hear them say I. Well, those are vowels. They've just reduced them to 2. Biblical Hebrew has a much wider range or gauge of vowels, right? But again, I think that oftentimes context is needed when things are written in books. So if you were to purchase, I don't know, a biblical Hebrew grammar book, right? And I'll just give you one that is probably used by most scholars around the world. This is Jesnius Hebrew Grammar, okay? So in an average Hebrew grammar book, or even more than average Hebrew grammar book, the first thing you're going to learn about is the letters and the vowels. They're going to teach you that when you come across ancient inscriptions, most of them were written in Paleo Hebrew. And when you look at an ancient inscription in Paleo Hebrew, unless you understand how the language works, which is the grammar system, you won't be able to recognize vocalization. The only way that you would understand vocalization from looking at Paleo Hebrew is to be familiar with how the language works, which is why you often hear people in the Israelite community say, I don't follow the Yiddish, or I don't follow the Masoretic text. They added vowels. Well, no, they didn't add vowels, good brothers and sisters. They added vowel markers. The job of the Masoretic scribes was not to invent a new system, a new way of speaking Hebrew. Their job was to preserve the way that the language is spoken, but it's not as simple as that. In biblical Hebrew, vocalization changes meaning. So Melech is a king, Malach is an angel, and Molech is the god of the Ammonites. They're spelled exactly the same way. The Bible says, do not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Okay. Milk and fat are the words kalev and kalav. The only thing that differentiates them is vocalization. So which one is it? Don't boil a kid in your mother's fat, or don't boil the kid in the mother's milk. You see, without understanding that the text requires vocalization, you're going to make a lot of errors. You're going to come across entire passages that you're going to brutally misappropriate and misinterpret. And then the scriptures don't have the meaning. So let me also say this, and I think this is the greatest test. If I was to ask everyone present, right, if we were actually like in a classroom setting, and I'm asking everyone that can hear my voice that's watching right now, and I say to everyone, in looking at the Bible, Genesis through Revelation, do you accept the full breadth of the Bible? I think 99% of Israelites will tell you yes, because I think 99% of Israelites in this community that we know of are mostly messianic. So they'll tell you they accept the full breadth of the Bible. But then there's the non-messianic faction that doesn't. But no matter which side you're on, accepting the full old or accepting the full volume, both old and new, everyone accepts that the Bible is true. I don't think people understand the implication of that statement. You see, in order to say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, you have to vocalize it. Bereshit bara Elohim et ha-shemayim ve et haaretz. Bereshit, that means in the beginning. Now, if I were to say barashat, that means he created six. That's a completely different word. If I was to move on, Bereshit bara, the next word is bara, right? He created. If I vocalize that differently, boré, it now means creator. If I vocalize it the same, bara, it could also mean pure. Which one is it? You can go through all of that. I can look at the term Elohim and I could say El Hayam, right? I can look at the letters for Elohim, and depending on vocalization, I don't have to say Elohim. Elohim is the Masoretic pronunciation. If I'm going by Lashuan Kodash, where the system is random, then I can literally say El Hayam, and that means the God of the sea. The God of the sea in the Levant is Dagon. You see how dangerous this gets? Without a set system of vocalization, the entire Bible reads differently. And I need to repeat that point. Without a set system of vocalization, the entire Bible reads differently. So I'm going to say with the utmost humility, newsflash, if you accept the Bible and its teachings, whether you are aware of it or not, you already accept the Masoretic text, because the Bible's translations, the Bible's interpretation is based on the Masoretic system, based on their vocalization. Because again, in biblical Hebrew, you change vocalization and you have effectively changed the meaning.
Praises anybody else? Let's get these questions, y'all.
I got a question. Shalom, brother Zion.
Shalom, shalom.
So you said that the Masoretic text, right, was they set up the vocalization, right?
No.
What explain that what you just said again?
Okay.
So
what the Masoretes do is preserve the vocalization. I want to be very keen in that distinction, because without that distinction, you could have the notion that the Masoretes invented, they innovated, they did something new. We have to emphasize that their work is to preserve the ancient pronunciation or the ancient vocalization.
Okay. My next question is, do you know who these people are?
Absolutely.
Ethnicity goes.
Absolutely. So the Masoretic scribes are a group of elite rabbis and sages spanning from the 1st century before the Common Era all the way into the 5th and 6th centuries Common Era, right? Or AD or BC, right? And so that's very important. Some people look at them as a family. That's a very incorrect description for the Masoretes. They are scribes, which we call in Hebrew soferim. They are the scribes. Like, for instance, when you open up Matthew 23 and 2, Yeshua speaks to the multitudes and he says, soferim we perushim yishveim kisei Moshe. The scribes and Pharisees sit upon the seat of Moses, right? The word for scribes is soferim, right? So these soferim, these scribes, span through at least 6 to 7 centuries. And their work is predominantly focused on preserving the meaning of the text by preserving the vocalization of the text. Because vocalization is intimately attached to meaning. You change vocalization and you have effectively changed the meaning.
Okay. Were these scribes what we call Gentiles?
None of the Masoretic scribes are Gentiles whatsoever. Okay. In fact, to be part and parcel of the scribal school, you have to have a lineage that's proofed, right? So this is taught in the oral tradition that in order to actually become a scribe, right, you have to have a lineage tied to Israel that is proved, meaning you have to have records for that lineage. You couldn't just sign up for it. You couldn't just be a smart guy, a brilliant person that happens to have a lot of knowledge. They want to know first and foremost that you're an Israelite. Then they want to know that you have learned formally in the scribal schools.
All praises, all praises. So
I want to, excuse me, I want to touch on that real quick, Zion, because me and my wife for the last 4 or 5 hours, because I just put 3 books in my cart because I was concerned about that too. Not saying because it came from a Gentile, but you know, we have Gentiles in our community, right? And so, but one of our customs of a Gentile teaching the Israelite congregation, we don't receive that, right? So I looked it up, and the Masoretic, it did say that, right? But then I looked for sources, and I just put 3 books in my cart, family. So I need y'all to know, y'all need to look this up, who the Masoretes was, because I'm gonna tell you, I was under the impression that they were Gentiles, right? So just for clarity for that. So I just wanted to add that on.
Yeah, if I can add something to that statement.
Go ahead, bro.
This is well accepted in scholarly consensus. Like, it's literally not up for the debate. It's where it's debated is in non-scholarly circles, people that are unfamiliar with the history, but none of the scholars are in question as to the lineage of the Masoretes. All of the scholars understand that the Masoretic scribes are all Israelites. Also, here's an important distinction to make. From where does the term Masorite even come from? Right? I'm big on definitions. One of my catchphrases that I share with the class is definitions bring us to a place of discernment. Therefore, if we seek to understand something, we should define it first. And so with that in mind, if you really want to understand what it is to be a Masorite, you should know that it comes from the term Mesora. Mesora. Mesora is a Hebrew word, and it refers to transcribing or transmitting information, right? Or the passing of information, whether that passing of information be orally by mouth, or whether that passing of information be committed to writing via a scribe. So the Masoretic scribes are part of the Mesora, the tradition where of how the Torah comes into transmission, how it's passed from rabbi to sage to disciple, and then finally committed to writing. Sometimes when you say in the Israelite community that in order to understand the Bible, the oral tradition is needed, Israelites not being familiar with what the oral tradition is or what it consists of, you'll hear them say, "Oh no, I don't need that." And I say, "You don't need what?" And they'll say, "I don't need the oral tradition." And I say, "Oh, really?" Then I'll ask them, "Do you believe in the Bible?" As I get my tea ready for their answers. And they say, "Yeah." And I say, "Okay, when was the Bible written?" That's usually when you start to hear the crickets. These questions. When you start to rigorously question people, you get to find out that although we have great reasons for our doubts, the fact is our doubts are based in our own ignorance. We just haven't studied. And what I think people should do is that rather than boldly and publicly go out and doubting and saying something's wrong, why not first study it thoroughly? Because if I ask you basic questions surrounding this thing and you can't answer basic questions, then no one's going to take you seriously when you say that you disagree with it, because you haven't studied it enough to know what you even disagree with. So I again make this very powerful statement. The Bible doesn't come into writing until hundreds of years after its events. We hold as a matter of emunah, faith, that Moses is the one that records the Torah. I actually believe that. But do we know when the Torah was actually written? When it's written? Because the oldest scrolls of the Torah that we have They come from the era of the Greek Septuagint. Next to that, you have the Aramaic translations, the Targum, right? So that is literally Moses is 1446 BC, especially if we're counting the Exodus, right? The date of the Exodus is 1446 BCE. That's the date of the Exodus, right? And then we received we received the Torah 40 days thereafter, right? So even the Torah is given in that same year of 1446 BCE, which on the Hebrew calendar is the Hebrew calendar year 2448. The Hebrew month is Sivan, and the Hebrew date is the 6th. So the Torah was given on the 6th of Sivan in the Hebrew calendar year 2448, but in the Gregorian calendar year 1446 BC. I also invite everyone to look that up live. Make sure that information can be verified. This is important. If we can't understand basics, then how are we to articulate doubt when we haven't studied enough to have any opinion? It's just not scholarly to do that. And so if the Bible doesn't come into writing until at least 700 years after the time of which it was, all these events are occurring, in the case of Moses, 1400 BC, again, at least 700 to 800 years before the time of its writing, then how were these writings surviving? How were they transcribed? How were they transmitted? They had to be spoken and committed to memory orally. That's a very powerful point to make. That the scribes, in order to write the Torah, they're actually committing it to memory. They're passing it from one sage, one disciple to another, and then they commit it to writing. To say that the Torah was already here as a written book in its full form is extremely inaccurate and would show that people haven't studied, right? Even the books of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, when are we seeing the very first printed editions of those? Not until hundreds of years after. So you'll have copies of them in the temple. You'll have copies among them, among various sages or rabbis, but you don't see those books circulating for hundreds of years. That means before anything is committed to writing, it begins as what we call an oral tradition. That's a very important thing. Anything that comes into writing, it first begins as an oral tradition. And I'm an actual writer, so I know exactly what I'm saying. Before you write something, didn't you think about it? Or did you just magically just start writing in trance and everything came out, right? So even the Torah in Deuteronomy 6, verse 4, right? Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. And these words which I command thee this day shall be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children. And you shall speak of them when you walketh by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Whoa. So how do we transmit the Torah? Speaking it every day. That's how the Torah was transcribed. That's how it was committed to memory. We actually transmitted it orally. We're commanded in the Torah to transmit it orally. You shall speak of it when you rise up, when you walketh by the way, and when you lie down. That's an actual commandment in the Torah. If I was to rewind even further, I would say, if we look at the life of Abraham and we consider one factor, in the book of Genesis, chapter 26, verse 4, the Creator says of Abraham, because he obeyed my voice, kept my laws, my decrees, my statutes, and my judgments, I shall do this for him. I shall bless him, and I shall do this. I say time out. What laws did Abraham have before Mount Sinai? Clearly, he had laws because God said he followed my decrees. He followed my judgments. He obeyed my voice. He kept my charge. By the way, if you count all of those things, those are 5. What do they correlate to? What we call the 5 classifications of Torah. When you read in the Bible, the statutes, the commandments, the judgments, the decrees, all of those things add up to 5. The Torah has 5 classifications. When the Creator enumerates that Abraham kept his law, he quite literally lists all 5 classifications. That would literally mean Abraham had the full breadth of the Torah. Obviously, he didn't have Pesach, Passover. Obviously, he didn't have various feast days. But as far as the letter of the law, what we are duty bound to do, he had all of that. But he had all of that before it was a written document. So that means the very form of the Torah was through oral transmission. Abraham had no book. Most of us forget that having a book in the ancient world is a rarity. I hope everyone knows that in the lifetime of David, people weren't walking around with a Tanakh at all. They were a living embodiment of the law. They didn't have a Tanakh. They had to know the law, and they did. You know who had access to the scribal writings? The priests, the prophets, the scribes.
Oh, okay. So you said something that was key, right? When Yahuwah spoke to Abraham, right? Did he speak to them in the language that the Mezorites say or preserve the vocalization for? You said something about the Mezorites. They preserve the vocalization, right?
Okay, that's right.
So at that time, when these laws were orally spoke to Abraham as well as Noah, right? Did he speak in that system that was preserved?
Absolutely, because that system is simply Hebrew. It's not a different language, it's Hebrew. But again, in biblical Hebrew, vocalization determines meaning. So the preservation of the vocal system had to be intact in order to preserve and transcribe the writing.
Okay, I'm trying to really understand it. I'm not trying to, I'm trying to get where you're coming from with it. So
I don't mind your questions. I just want to say that I certainly don't mind your questions. I also want to say this. Have you studied biblical Hebrew?
Well, that's all I've been learning. I haven't really learned a different dialect of it.
Okay. So if I was to pull up a Paleo Hebrew text right now, of which I actually have one on the screen, would you be willing to join me and read it?
Now, Paleo, let me see it. Is it the moderns, what they call the modern?
No, I said Paleo.
Nah, let me see what you're talking about though. I mean, I'm familiar with the lettering system, but as far as speaking and putting together, no.
Okay. Okay, let me know when you can see my screen.
All right.
Okay, floor is yours.
You need me to put that on the screen?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Blow it up, son, bro. Blow it up, son, bro.
You said blow it up some?
Yeah, can you blow it up some?
Okay, hold on. Go ahead.
Okay, no, that letter system I'm not familiar with.
Okay, I'll give you one. Are you familiar with what we call the Masoretic system?
Let me see the letter, man.
Okay, I'll show you right now. Just give me a second. I think this is a very important distinction that I'm making. So, okay. Okay, here we go. You should be able to see my screen and T -5. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, blow it up.
Okay. Any more? Or is that
a little bit more?
more than that?
Yeah. Okay.
You said, okay.
Here we go. So it says Waya Debar Alahayam Ath Hal Ha Debarayam Ha, Allah, La'amar,
Okay. What is it saying?
and He, Word, Alahayam, Mighty Judge Ruler, Ath, Al-Nathah. We take that to be the first and the last, the Son, Yahweh She, Call, Ha, the Barayam, the words, Ha, Allah, the we'll come back to that one.
Okay, pause for a moment.
Mhm.
The first two words, why dabir Elohim. Why dabir, and he spoke, Elohim, and God spoke. Et, that's the definite article, the direct object marker. Kol or kal, that means all. Hadebarim, these words, and God spoke all these words. Ha ele lemor, sing. Could you read just verse 2 for me? I want to understand something about where you're at in Hebrew. Could you just read verse 2?
A Nake Yahuwah Alahayak Ashar Ha Wataza Yata
Okay, you
Yaka.
can stop there. That's sufficient. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Could you translate those 5 words for us?
Okay. The first word I have to double back. I know the second one is Yahuwah Alahayak. I'm not sure Alahayak. No, Shar spake. Ha Yataza Athayak.
You can stop there. What is this word that you just said?
Ha Yataza Athayak. Not sure.
Okay, that's the word hotsetika. It means to bring out. The root word is yatsa. Yatsa means to bring out. It's in what we call the hifil stem or the hufal stem, right? So it's being caused to be brought out, right? Okay. So the first word that you miss is anoki. That's how we say I. You got the tetragrammaton, that's fine. This word, I'm not sure how you pronounced it, but it's actually saying your God, right? That's the Hebrew word for your God, Elohe Ka. So here's the point I want to make now. You don't have fluency in the language. I think that's clear, right? And it's not a, certainly not a diss to you, but I want to make a point. When you disagree with someone, right? Let's just be very frank and try to be honest and sincere with ourselves. When you disagree with someone, you want to disagree from a place of being in the know. That's first. You want to make sure that you know what you're saying before you disagree, because usually if I have an opinion that I share with someone or that I hold to, it comes from a place of me knowing what that thing is, not from a place of not knowing. And I could just tell you with all due sincerity from brother to brother, the way that you struggle to read that tells me that you don't understand how the language works. There's no other way I can genuinely and honestly say that to you. So with that in mind, it also tells me that if you don't understand the structure of the language, and I'm not going to get into grammar questions right now and ask you grammar, because based on the way you read, I think that wouldn't make sense. But what I would say to you is that in just reading the language alone, me having 30 years of experience with the language, and I hope that means something to you, having 30 years of experience, I can automatically tell you that the errors that you're making in thought so far is because of the fact that you haven't studied enough. What you say of the Masoretic scribes is also because you have not studied that enough. If I was to really question you, and I don't aim to make any Israelite look bad, because we are all brothers and I love my brothers. But if I was to thoroughly question you right now about the scribal tradition, I would like to wager that probably wouldn't go right. So what I'm saying to you is, rather than disagree with what someone's saying, you should always first be willing to hear what a person is saying in full, right? And then from a place of learning everything that they had to say and then fact checking it, then whatever opinion you share, I think it would be respected that much greater.
So, go ahead, Benayah. Go ahead.
So my next question would be, as far as sounding the words, what do we stand on to properly sound out the words? From like, how are we able to determine how they spoke it then, as well as how it's being spoken now.
So that's in my PowerPoint. I'm going to demonstrate that in the PowerPoint. Right, my PowerPoint demonstrates how you can see vocalization in the Paleo Hebrew text. My PowerPoint presentation demonstrates how you will understand that even what people call Paleo Hebrew has a vocalization system. I'm going to give several examples that make that crystal clear tonight.
Here's something to add on to that, Zion. What I sent you in Messenger about the how we say Allah Hayam, right? Which is on the screen. I don't know if you can see that in the Lashon Kodash and then the Dead Sea Scrolls. Can you see it or no?
Which one are you pronouncing Allah Hayam?
Right. So we use that one from the Masoretic text, right? And
okay, so if you don't mind, Elder Barak,
yeah.
Towards your point, I want to make a point.
Okay.
You said we pronounce Elohim as Allah Hayam, right?
Right. That's what I want you to touch base.
I want you to do me this. Mm-hmm. How do you say the sea in Hebrew? The sea.
The sea. I thought it was. I thought I'm learning, so I didn't think it was a sea in Hebrew.
Hayam.
Hayam.
Okay.
So it's already problematic, your pronunciation for God, Hayam at the ending, because that's the word for sea. You're not saying God when you say Allah Hayam. That Hayam is literally how you say the sea. Sea in Hebrew is Yam, and Ha is the. So Hayam is sea. It doesn't pluralize Hebrew words. So that's what's problematic about the pronunciations here. Again, as I've been trying to point out, with all due respect, it changes the meaning.
So Zion, that Wah and that's on here in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I seen that you showed that it shows the Wah in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So do you understand my question? What I said earlier?
I absolutely understand
right.
Your question.
So that's what I want you to touch base on, because I'm saying Allah Hayam, but the Dead Sea Scrolls is showing the pronunciation with that letter that's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we subscribe to the Dead Sea Scrolls is accurate.
Okay, yes, absolutely. So that's part of my presentation. That's actually like within the first couple of slides.
Okay. Yeah. So with that being out, you got anything else? Because we only got them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I got off into the question because I'm just really trying to get a full understanding of how.
One thing about Zion,
let me do his presentation though, because I want to see.
Well, one thing about Zion, I'm going to tell you, he opened for full cross-examination, just like Yashia say, and the rest of the brothers that be teaching. He's open for full cross-examination. And like I said, this is something that one thing I want to be clear with me. Barak knows how to shut up when he doesn't know anything. And I'm not saying that to anybody else, but dealing with this Hebrew, this is the reason why I'm leaning towards it, because I need these questions. My brother Ben Ayah and my wife studied this Lashon Kodash a lot better than me. And because I felt in my spirit, it wasn't for me to push to learn. But I'm leaning towards this biblical Hebrew, and now I'm starting to see a lot of things. So please, this is not an attack on our brothers and sisters that's learning the Lashon Kodash, and it's not an attack on anybody else. I bought this interview because I really want to know the truth, and I really want to learn the language. And I know one thing I do know, me being a student and having a degree in logistics and dealing with my job, one thing I learned about language, because in my job, you have to be able to read stuff and comprehend. One thing I know about language, there's a grammar system for every language. And I don't see a grammar system in the language that we speak. So I'll just rest with that. And we'll open the floor up and let Zion do what he do. And then hopefully we got enough time for questions.
All right. So yeah, definitely have the PowerPoint ready to go. And with your permission, I'll start as soon as you're able to see my PowerPoint on the screen. All right.
Hold on a minute, Zion. What's his brother's name? We can kick him up out of here immediately. Listen here. I'm gonna let y'all know something in the chat. Don't come over here talking about whatever personal issues you have with Brother Zion or whatever the case may be. because I'm not going to go for that. I'm telling you right now. And the same thing with me and my community. So there's a lot of y'all over here that don't know about my little small channel and my little small community, but I deal with respect and I deal with love. And we didn't come in here for that. I came in here to learn and ask questions. And if you come in here being rude or disrespectful or calling out anything, my wife gonna catch it and kick you out. There ain't no second chances with me. So I'm giving out the warnings right now. Any profanity, disrespect, anything. I'm gonna be honest. I ain't never had this many people on the channel. And so please do not do that over here because I ain't got time for it. Honestly. All right. Excuse me, Zion.
No, that's absolutely fine. And I definitely want to say thank you. I appreciate that. I too have a rule that no matter who my guest is, even if my guest is someone that has been opposed to Israelite doctrine and against the Bible, I still ensure and make sure that the chat is respectful. That's just basic decorum. So I do generally appreciate that you said that. I definitely do. All right. So this biblical Hebrew demonstration is aimed at covering a lot of things. The first thing we're going to go into is to differentiate Yiddish from Hebrew. If everyone looks at my screen, you will notice that the script and characters that are used here is referred to as, if you know the history, it's called Kitav Ashurit. Kitav Ashurit. Kitav is a Hebrew word that means script, and Ashurit means exalted. So this is the exalted script. There are some scholars that believe that the term Ashurit is a reference to where this script was revived, which is the region of Assyria, right? But the consensus is that the script's name is Kitav Ashurit. This is how you write biblical Hebrew in Hebrew, all right? This is how you literally write biblical Hebrew in Hebrew. And looking at this script, the vast majority of Israelites will call it the Yiddish. And I've been hearing that since the 1990s in the Israelite community. And I do want to say, I think it's sad that that still exists in 2026 that we're now in. I say in class that in times past, not having good information doesn't really reflect on the person, because oftentimes it was just hard to get access to good information, right? We didn't have the type of computers or laptops that we have today. We certainly didn't have cell phones. We didn't have iPads. We certainly didn't have Google as a search engine, right? When I came into this way of life in 1994, there was no YouTube. You had to study Torah with someone that knew the book. You couldn't watch a YouTube video and then now you're a scholar. You had to study with people. You couldn't follow somebody on Facebook and Instagram and listen to them, and now you're a scholar. You had to actually sit down with people. And I do really treasure those times, because I think that's where I had some of my best studies, right? When I didn't have the distraction. So on that point, I say today, knowledge is so accessible that to remain in ignorance takes effort. That's how accessible knowledge is today. So here we go. Biblical Hebrew and Yiddish are not the same. Some on social media claim Hebrew and Yiddish are the same language. Hebrew is a Semitic language like Arabic. Yiddish is a Germanic, Slavic language. Yiddish and Hebrew use the same alphabet. Yiddish and Hebrew share a few words but pronounce them differently. The Hebrew word for day is yom. The Yiddish word for day is tag. Yiddish uses Hebrew characters, but the language is clearly different. In Hebrew, day is yom. In Yiddish, it's tag. One West Hebrew Israelites and those that follow their teachings, such as Lashon Kodash, which comes from One West, they will say that when I say yom, I'm pronouncing it the Yiddish way. Well, here's an opportunity for us to not make those errors again, because this is how you say day in Yiddish. In Hebrew, night is Lila. In Yiddish, night is Nakat. Again, completely different words. Here are some examples to the right to illustrate some of the differences. When you say hello in shalom, it's hello, it's shalom. Most Israelites are saying shalom. When they hear me say shalom, they say, damn, you've been around too long to still be speaking the Yiddish. And I say, the what? They say the Yiddish, and I say the what? They say the Yiddish. At that point, I realized that they don't know that Yiddish actually says hello. They don't say shalom. When you want to say hello in Yiddish, it's hello. The word for book in Hebrew is sefer. The word for book in Yiddish is literally book. Book. There are some scholars that actually place a Germanic Slavic origin for book, hence why they say it that way. The Hebrew word for peace, I say shalom. The masses of Israelites will say shalom. And once again, they will say that I'm speaking the Yiddish when I say shalom. When you want to say peace in Yiddish, they say sholem. Sholem. I never say sholem. There's no one alive that ever heard me say sholem. I say shalom. So they're also different words. The Hebrew word for bread, lechem. Lechem. The Yiddish word for bread, biryot. Biryot. Again, showing everyone, although Yiddish uses Hebrew characters, it's a completely different language. As Yiddish is a composition of Germanic and other Slavic languages with traces of the Latin and Romance languages, as well as traces of Hebrew and Aramaic, even as the way they say peace, sholem, it has traces of Hebrew, but it's not exactly Hebrew. Next slide. And this is where things really come alive. I hope everyone really pays attention to my screen. I took my time with today's presentation because I really want our community to elevate and advance and not remain in the dark when it comes to these treasure troves of our history. So one of the biggest proofs that there's a difference between Hebrew, as I speak, Masoretic Hebrew, and Yiddish is this. The screen shows you Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, in Hebrew on the right side and in Yiddish on the other. And you can clearly see they are completely different words. Yiddish is a West Germanic language historically spoken by Ashkenazi Jews. By the way, if anyone wants to find this is a PDF online. I do believe in honest scholarship. So you can Google right now, Yiddish Torah, and you'll see that the very first page is this page you're looking at with the word Bereshit in Hebrew, but side by side, it shows you the Hebrew and then the Yiddish. Okay. Most varieties of Yiddish include elements of Slavic languages, and the vocabulary contains traces of Romance languages as well as traces of Hebrew and Aramaic. Yiddish has traditionally been written using the Hebrew alphabet, which means although Yiddish is different from Hebrew, it's written using Hebrew letters. So please, with all due respect, stop looking at these characters and saying, that's the Yiddish. Yiddish is not a script. Yiddish is a dialect. It's a spoken language. When that dialect is written using Hebrew, this is how it looks. I don't even know how to read Yiddish. I would do horrible at reading this. I recognize the letters because they're Hebrew letters, but these are all completely different words that I am completely unfamiliar with. I hope everyone can see that there's a clear difference between Hebrew and Yiddish. So at least no one in this live stream should ever go out and publicly say in 2026 that this script right here is the Yiddish. And I'll tell you why people made that mistake. If you don't know Hebrew and you go online and you Google Yiddish Hebrew alphabet, it'll pull up these characters. But because you don't know Hebrew, when these characters are used to spell words, you wouldn't even know the difference between the two. You think you're reading Yiddish when in fact you're reading Hebrew. And I'll move on to the next slide. I told you guys I took my time with today. Deuteronomy 28 and 68 in Hebrew and Yiddish. Again, for the sake of transparency, anyone right now can go on Google and pull up the PDF that I'm using live. All you have to do is type in Yiddish Torah. Okay. Deuteronomy 28:68 in Hebrew and Yiddish. In Hebrew, Deuteronomy 20:68 says, "We hashivka Adonai Mitzrayim ba'aniot baderek asher amarti leka lo tosif od lirota wehit makartem sham leoveka la'avadim ul mishpachot ul shafkot we'en koneh." Okay, look at how it reads in Yiddish. And just for clarity, I highlighted in red the very first sentences of their both, so you can clearly see that although both are using Hebrew characters, they are literally different words. So what does that mean? Knowledge today is so accessible. It takes effort to remain in ignorance. Don't be that person that remains in ignorance because you're so prideful that you can't admit that you're wrong. I was 23 years as an Old Testament Israelite. 23 years as an Old Testament Israelite. In the last 8 or 9 years, I've completely changed my position. And I went public. I didn't whisper it. I went right on my YouTube page and did a series of videos. I debated Divine Prospect, Priest Daniela from the Lions of Israel, Brother Hashar from AOC. And when I debated them back in 2015, many people that watched that video said I beat all three of them. There were people that said they won. I walked away surely saying I won. You know what I did when I realized 8 or 9 years ago that I was wrong about the Messiah? I did a video entitled Divine Prospect Was Right, called him on the platform, apologized to him for disagreeing with him on the subject, and then began to unwrap why it is that I was wrong. Now people are going to say, Zion's haughty. Zion is arrogant. Zion, he what? He's bold enough to do something that a lot of people are unwilling to do. How many of your leaders, when they're in error, will go public? How many of your leaders, when they're in error, will actually say, I was wrong about that? Not in behind closed doors, but public. You see, when you don't have a humility issue and you just want the truth, you should never be worried about whether you're right or wrong, except that you always want to be accurate when it comes to the word of God. And if that means acknowledging that you were wrong, then that's what you must do. Anything less than that is, as the commercial says, it's uncivilized. Next slide. I'm going to blow this up closer now so everybody could see this. Now I have Deuteronomy 28:68, the verses in questions highlighted, and I have Deuteronomy 28:68 in Yiddish, the verses highlighted. You can again clearly see, this time even more blown up, they're completely different. I don't read English, Yiddish. I recognize the characters because they are Hebrew, but the language isn't Hebrew. So what do I mean? If I was to pull up Spanish right now, Spanish is written using English characters, or what we can possibly even call Latin characters. But I don't read Spanish. So I can read through it because I know what English looks like, but I'm going to butcher it. I hope everybody gets my point. Because this is Hebrew, yes, I can actually read it. Un, gat, wa, at. I don't want to say that. That's a male private part in English, and you guys are going to laugh if I was to say that out loud. That's the vulgar way of saying a male private part. I'll spell it for you so you get my point. D-I-K. I'm not going to say that. Then you have karan, of, she, fan. By the way, that's clearly not Deuteronomy 28:68. Deuteronomy 28:68 says, We hashivka Adonai Mitzrayim ba'aniot baderek asher amarti leka lo tosif od lirota wehit makartem sham leoveka la'avadim ul shifchot we'en koneh. That is clearly not in the Yiddish. So I'm going to say this once more. I'm on a quest, everyone. to effectively murder One West doctrine. I don't have a problem with people that follow One West. I don't have a problem with people who have come through One West, but I do have a problem with One West doctrine because, in my humble opinion, it's the cause of great embarrassment in the community. It's the cause of great division in the community. And even though those brothers have done incredible work towards spreading the word of God, they have done even worse work in butchering God's word when they go to interpret it. So I give credit where credit is due. And I believe that for many years, even though I always knew, because my teachers always taught us that the 12 tribes chart was inaccurate. By the way, you guys have probably seen a video of an elder exposing the 12 tribes chart. That's my elder. That's a teacher that I learned from. We call him Chief of Chiefs, Chief Naphtali. When I did a book signing for my book, my very first book in 2015, he spoke at it. The video is online. It's called Avdiel Ben Levi, the Master Student. And the subtitle is Zion Lexx's book signing. That very same teacher that you guys see exposing One West Hebrew, where he says, "Come on, Pop, we all know that that's the hook." And Pop says, "Sure, Danny, we know that's the hook, but that's how you get the people in." Well, that's one of my teachers that exposed that. So I'm not just speaking from a place of just knowing Hebrew when I tell you that One West is wrong with the 12 tribes chart and One West is wrong with the Hebrew. I'm also speaking from personal lived experience, being around elders that was with those same elders. Okay. So I hope the Yiddish point is clear. We should never have to revisit this again. Now let's understand what the Tiberian vocalization system is, right? The necessity of the Tiberian vocalization system for Torah interpretation. The Torah is not merely a consonantal text, as some people say. It is a grammatical, syntactic, and semantic system in which meaning is carried by vowels as much as by consonants. Without the full range of the Tiberian vocalization system, Hebrew collapses into ambiguity, rendering verb tense, gender, number, voice, and syntax indecipherable or unstable. The Masoretes did not, I even have it highlighted, invent vowels. They preserved and stabilized, slika, they preserved and stabilized a phonological system already embedded in biblical Hebrew. Matres lectiones, the mother of the tongue, which refers to various vowel letters, letters that can act as vowels and can also act as consonants or letters, right? And even Paleo-Hebrew traditions, such as the Samaritan Torah. Hebrew is a root-based language, but roots alone do not convey meaning. That's where the One West school fails. If you ever was to ask a One West person to read Hebrew, even Paleo-Hebrew, they can do it. You know where the problem comes in? When they now have to go into parsing the text. They need Strongs to parse the text because they don't understand the grammar. To anyone that understands the grammar, you don't need Strongs. Strongs is a training wheel system meant for someone that's just learning how to ride a bike. I don't think that there's anyone here that once they know how to ride a bike, they still need the training wheels. So my point now is, I want everybody to consider something the next time you see someone saying they know the paleo. Watch how they always lean on Strongs. They're doing that because they don't understand how the grammar works, how the morphology works, how the syntax works. So they need to lean on Strongs. You're going to hear them say things like, according to 5233, Strong's number. People that really know the language kind of laugh at you because it tells them that you're still on training wheels. All right. Strong's was not meant for someone that knows the language. It was meant for someone that's just learning how to ride a bike. Next slide. Verb tense and aspect collapse without vocalization. Consider the consonantal root. To the top right, everyone, I have the word for right. Right? That's the word kitav. I have it written in what some may call Masoretic Hebrew. even though the academic term is Kitav Ashurit, and I have it written in Paleo Hebrew, right? This root means to write. Okay, what if I want to say he wrote? According to One West, Hebrew letters are with the exception of the letter ayin, which they pronounce as an I. By the way, they're in big trouble. With that type of vocalization system, you don't even account for what's called a diphthong. What is a diphthong? A diphthong is when a vowel letter collides with a vowel. So even in English, you have what we call diphthongs, where you take a word like, I don't know, tie, right? As in THAI. Normally in English, THAI would not yield that vocalization. That vocalization is only possible because it's unavoidable in language. When a vowel letter collides with a vowel, it will change the vocalization. So we know in English, when you have a and I in a word, it will convert to I. By the way, that's called a diphthong. Diphthongs are very helpful in language. In some languages, especially Hebrew, they contribute to meaning. Lashon Kodash does not account for a diphthong, of which the word for life in Hebrew is a diphthong, chai. So if I want to say he wrote, according to Lashon Kodash, that is katav. Congratulations. That's the only one you're going to get right. Now, if I want to say writing, according to Lashon Kodash, that's also going to be katav. No, it's not. It's two different vocalizations. And if you say it's the same vocalization, you now have a problem. How do we know if it's saying he wrote? How do we know if it's referring to a writing in general, which is a participle? By the way, when you start to question some of these people, they don't understand the basics of grammar. They couldn't even effectively tell you what a participle is. And when they start to Google it, they'll give you the English definition and not even the Hebrew, further embarrassing themselves. So I'm hoping that I'm clear for everyone when I say Hebrew is more complex than ba, ga, da. That's baby babbling. That's not language. If you want to learn Hebrew, it takes a lot more time than learning Lashon Kodash, but I can assure you, you'll actually learn it. When you want to say he will write, which is the infinitive or the imperfect, you have to add the yod. It's now yiktov. He will write. That's the infinitive. That's the future tense, right? How does a Hebrew word or verb convert from past to future? Ask someone that speaks Paleo. You're going to see that they run into a lot of issues. They don't understand grammar. I'll move on. As I mentioned earlier, the word for king, melech, right? Hebrew grammar gender is often invisible without vocalization. Without vocalization, you don't know that this is king or malka. This could be malka. How do you know it's king? It could be queen. Malka is queen, right? If this were written in Paleo Hebrew, it doesn't have what we call the Sophit letter, the N letter. Therefore, you wouldn't know that the ending sound would be that, which is ka. Therefore, which one is it? In Paleo Hebrew, the word for king and the word for queen are written just like this. I'm going to say it again. In Paleo Hebrew, the word for king and queen are written just like this. Based on the rules of Lashon Kodash, you're going to pronounce them both the same. So which is it? David is the queen of Israel or David is the king of Israel? And let's please not embarrass our ancestor with these vocalizations. He's the Melech Yisrael, not the Malak. That's an angel. Not the Malka. That's a queen. Vocalization matters. Paleo Hebrew and Samaritan agreement with Masoretic vocalization. The claim that Paleo Hebrew lacked vowels is historically false. While it did lack diacritical points which are those markers, those dottings, right? It uses matres lectiones consistently, marking the same long vowels later encoded by the Tiberian system. For example, the Samaritan Torah regularly preserves the final ah with a hey, the long o or u with a wa, the long I or E with the yod. These correspond precisely to the Hebrew vowels kamatz, kolam, shuruk, zere, and kirik in the Masoretic Hebrew. The Masoretes did not create meaning. They froze pronunciation, already preserved orally and graphically. Here's where we start to have a little bit of fun. To the left is a Paleo-Hebrew rendition of songs. To the right is Kitav Ashurit, or what some people call Biblical Hebrew or Masoretic Hebrew. They're written in two different scripts, Paleo-Hebrew or some call Masoretic Hebrew. Notice this. In this word right here, which is Hasherim, you can literally see that there are vowels. How do we know that? In the Masoretic text, the vowel kirik is marked here with a kirik and a yod. If Paleo didn't have vowels, this word wouldn't be spelled with a yod. The yod here is not acting as a consonant. The yod here is acting as a vowel. If it was acting as a consonant, it would no longer carry the meaning of songs in Hebrew. Songs in Hebrew. In Hebrew, you pluralize with a vowel and then the letter mem. Okay, that's the masculine pluralization. You get the vowel kirik and then the letter mem. That kirik, yod, vowel, and mem is what pluralizes masculine nouns. Elohim, Shemayim, right? And that's the dual pluralization, by the way, right? Chayim, the Hebrew word for life, right? Apayim, right? Anger, right? I can go on. If you look at various letters, you can see what we call vowel letters, right? Even in the word right here, you can literally see the vowel letter, which is the word shakora, shakora. The letter hey here is part of a vowel. It's not acting as a consonant. The Paleo would not have included this letter if it was acting as a consonant. It's only here in Paleo because it is acting as a vowel, right? Even in the word Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, right here in the Masoretic and right here in the Paleo, you can literally see that the what? The yod here is acting just as it acts in the Masoretic. What is it? Excuse me. The wav here is acting just like it acts in the Masoretic. It's giving you the oo sound. So you would not see that the Masoretic is spelled the same way if there's a difference. There's no difference. The text is pointing out vocalization. So this is what's referring to. Within the Paleo-Hebrew text itself, there are clearly various letters that function as both consonants or vowels. That point will be made a little bit more clearer in a couple of slides, such as this one. If we look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, right, this one particular is from the book of Joshua, chapter 1:1, right? And this is from the book of Exodus 9:29 and the Dead Sea Scrolls, okay? And then you also have Joshua 1:1 from the Aleppo Codex. Why are we using this? In the book of Exodus 9:29, in the Masoretic text and Dead Sea Scrolls, Exodus 9:29 uses the name Moses and it's spelled like this. Okay. Now, it's spelled like this in the Dead Sea Scrolls, just like that. When you look at it as it appears in the book of Joshua, it's spelled like this. So what do the scribes do? The scribes add a defective spelling of the vowel kolam, which is a dot, placed slightly to the top left of the mem. That's how we say Mo. I know in Lashon Kodash, people pronounce his name as Masha. Masha. By the way, when you pronounce Moses' name as Masha, that's the Kal stem, and you're saying he was drawn, right? He was drawn. And you might think, oh, see, that's got to be the pronunciation because that's the meaning. Moses was drawn from water. But Moses' name is actually not that simple. It's the active call stem, right? And it's denoting what? That Moses, it's the active participle. And it's denoting what? That Moses is the one who will be drawing out. So even though Moses was drawn out of water, he eventually is the one that draws us out of Egypt. So Moses' name incorporates what we call the active participle. In order to get that in biblical Hebrew, you need the vocalization of O and E. That's why we say Moshe. Yes, he was drawn out of water at birth, but that's not his calling. That's not his job. And by rule of thumb, the names of the prophets allude to their calling. Isaiah's name, Yeshayahu, what does he speak about? The salvation of Yahu, the salvation of Yah. Jeremiah, Ezekiel, I can go on down the line. Each of their names is reflective of their calling. Moses was called forth to bring us up out of Egypt, and his name perfectly represents that when we say Moshe. He actively drew us out. The participle is a verbal adjective. All right, I'm not going to take you guys too deep in grammar, but let's read. This is how the Masoretic text with vowel points writes the name of Moses in Exodus 9:29. Note the colon vowel dot above to the top left of the mem. That's this right here. And it's also right there. I'm going to show it bigger on the next screen, so don't worry. It's pronounced O. And the shin dot on the top right of the shin, SH, making it SH instead of S. As well as the segol vowel, which are those three dots, look like a smiley face, those three dots. That gives you the eh sound, making an eh. So in pronouncing it, we get Moshe. Now let's look at the Dead Sea Scroll 2 from Cave 2, Exodus. This is how the Dead Sea Scroll records the name of Moses. Uh-oh. The Dead Sea Scroll adds a letter. The Masoretic text just has 3 letters. The Dead Sea Scrolls adds a letter. But what letter does it add?
Wow.
Oh, it adds the letter Wav. Why? Because the letter Wav is a vowel letter. It can function as an U, it can function as an O. So they're actually pronouncing the name the same way. The Dead Sea Scrolls is proof that in the earliest times, our people spoke the same type of Hebrew that the Masoretes preserved. All right, I'm going to move on. And this was towards your question. You're personally going to enjoy this. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, the divine name Elohim is written without vowel points. And appears in more than one consonantal spelling. A lot of people don't know that in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it gives proof to the Masoretes because the Dead Sea Scrolls has passages where the name Elohim is spelled just like the Masoretes, but then it has passages where it's spelled just like this, the way it's spelled in Paleo. In Paleo, when you're writing Elohim, it's spelled with this additional letter. The Dead Sea Scrolls does the same thing, but it does the same thing for the same reason that the Masoretic scribes add the dot. It's acting as a vowel. So watch this. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, the divine name Elohim is written without vowel points and appears in more than one consonantal spelling. Most commonly, Elohim spelled like this with 5 letters, Aleph, Lamed, He, Yod, Mem, and at times with 6 letters, Aleph, Lamed, Wa, He, Yod, Mem, where a Wa is added as Matre Lectionis to help indicate the long O vowel sound. Houston, we got a problem. Even in the Dead Sea Scrolls, they added the vowel letter Wa to indicate the O. So that means you got to literally throw away Lashon Kodash because it's keeping us in the past. The greatest misinformation about Lashon Kodash is that the people who gave it to us in 1969, One West, they told you this is the ancient. The greatest disappointment about that is that's the modern. Why is it the modern? Because they invented it in 1969. No such vocalization was ever applied to Hebrew at any time in history. Therefore, you'll never see any attestation earlier than 1969 for all of One West vocalization. I can keep going. This variation does not reflect a different pronunciation or theology, but rather differences in scribal habit, orthographic fullness, and regional or chronological writing conventions within the Second Temple Hebrew, since ancient Hebrew relied on consonants and occasional vowel letters rather than fixed vowel signs, and scribes could choose to write more fully for clarity or more defectively for economy, which is space, like an economy vehicle, all while preserving the same spoken form of Elohim as later standardized by the Masoretic vocalization system. So note to the right, these different spellings of Elohim, as spelled here with 5 letters, as spelled here in 6 letters, can be found across multiple Dead Sea Scroll manuscripts, most clearly in Isaiah scrolls such as 1Q Isaiah A, and in Deuteronomy fragments from K4, 4Q Deuteronomy, where scribes alternate between defective and plain orthography, meaning they're doing the exact same thing that the Masoretic scribes are doing, but somebody with a King James Bible and a highlighter that can't read Hebrew at all convince you that the Masoretes made this up. Someone with a King James Bible and a highlighter convinced you that the Masoretes made this up. You know, it's easier to learn Hebrew when you just invent things. And that was the point of Lashawan Kodash. The people who gave that to you in 1969, they didn't know Hebrew. So to make up for the lack thereof, they invented a very simplistic way of speaking the language. Ah, ba, ga, da. Can't go wrong there. That's very easy. The only other vocal sound is I. Wow. With that, I could read any script. Hebrew's not that easy, guys. It's a little bit more complex. But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with working harder so long as I got the right information. This, by the way, is where Lashawan Kodash completely falls apart. When you go through grammar. If I was to thoroughly question somebody that tells me they follow Lashawan Kodash, and I start asking them basic grammar questions, every single one of them will fall one by one. And at the Q&A at the end of my presentation, if you were to ask anyone that believes in Lashawan Kodash to join the screen, you're going to literally watch every single one of them fall one by one when I start questioning them on basic grammar questions. If I turn it up a notch and get intermediate or advanced, it would just be embarrassing at that point. Towards the same point that I was making, Deuteronomy 28 and 68, this is a very powerful point. If you deny Masoretic Hebrew, then throw out your reason for why you say you're an Israelite. Most of us follow the Deuteronomy 28:68 narrative. I'm not saying every single Israelite does, because I know some that don't, but that's a rarity. The majority of us, myself included, we follow the Deuteronomy 28:68 narrative in bulk as being a marker for who we are. We know that we have people that are in other parts of the world, but we know that this is a huge marker for who we are. Our teachers refer to this chapter as the mirror. You can look at it and see the condition of our people and therefore identify with who we are in history. But here's a problem. If you say you don't follow Masoretic Hebrew, you're in trouble. Masoretic Hebrew is responsible for the way that we're interpreting this. The way that we're interpreting this is the reason why we're saying Deuteronomy 28:68 is placing us on ships and doing all of that. If you go by Paleo Hebrew, none of this exists. This only exists through Masoretic Hebrew. It is not a feature of Paleo Hebrew the way that One West understands Paleo Hebrew. One West understands Paleo Hebrew as being different from Hebrew grammar. Apart from Hebrew grammar, there is no way on God's green earth that you could be still talking Deuteronomy 28:68. You would have to literally throw it away. If you'd like to support the work of Learn Torah Hebrew Academy, you can donate at Learn Torah on Cash App. You can donate at Venmo Nasi Abdiel. You can donate at Zelle at 929-822-3286. I'm eager for anyone that has questions or would like to join and say anything.
Wow, all praises, man. I knew it was going to be fire. Great presentation. Family, I want to say this before we open up floor for questions. Look, and this is no shot on nobody, because, see, one thing I learned about this truth, right? Something that I'm well studied on, I will be willing to talk live with anybody about what I'm well studied on. What I'm a student is one thing that I'm good at. Is something that I'm not well studied in, I am not going to open my mouth and try to say that somebody's wrong. You should always be able to show what is wrong. So I'm going to put this out there, and this is no shots. I need a teacher, either my ex-former teacher or any other teacher that speaks this language, to show me, because to convince me how Zion is wrong and that what he's saying is inaccurate, and show me how this Hebrew we speak is the language that we need to just stick to. Now, this ain't about me trying to start anything. This is about me learning, because I don't know. And what I'm learning now from him makes a lot of sense for the language. So this ain't about, trying to prove my former teacher's false or anybody that speaks this. This is not even about that. One thing about me, I'm not a dummy. I don't follow man. I follow the spirit of Yah. And one thing about, I've told y'all I learned about Zion. I done fact checked a lot of stuff that he done taught that I done learned. I done learned stuff from my brother Yashia that he taught that I seen Zion teach the same thing. So please, y'all, don't take this the wrong way from me. I want to know the truth, and I want to know the language. So if anybody can get on, and we'll set it up on Zion platform, your platform, whatever. If y'all can get on, because I'm looking for any Israelite that's saying he's wrong, and do a presentation, show how he's wrong, go back and forth and ask each questions so we can edify each other and we can make a decision what we need to be learning. I'm passionate about this truth. I study. I eat the book. I study the identity, language, and culture. I give y'all, know what I give y'all on here. Even if you don't like what our ministry teach, I do interviews on scholarship and good scholars, and you can always tune in, and I'm putting out good information on identity, language, and culture. Zion just covered our language, and he has openly asked, does anybody have any questions? So with that being said, if you haven't watched this whole video, go back and watch it. Don't go doing secret teachings and saying how wrong he is, but you're not going to mention his name and I'm just being honest. I'm calling it what I see. You're not going to be honest to call and have a respectful dialogue and show how he's wrong. Then stay in the corner and teach what you teach, and I'm moving forward. And if somebody can convince me and show me that he's wrong, then I will take in consideration. But what I'm seeing and what I'm learning, I see the differences. That stuff I seen in the Dead Sea Scrolls speaks volumes to me. Now, the floor is open, and this is what we all learning. Everybody on here. The floor is open. We got about 15 minutes with Zion, and it's time. If you got a question, if you want to hit the link and come on and ask them, I'll put the link in the chat, or you can ask the question. I'll flash it on the screen. The floor is open. Brother Gawan, for y'all that don't know, Brother Gawan, we had him on and had a conversation with him about the Hebrew and the vowel points. He just said, I'm glad you opened to biblical Hebrew because you wasn't just 2 years ago. Gawan, I'm glad you brought that up. And I've been telling people that. and so you just a witness to the truth. I wasn't open to it. We had Divine Prospect on there, but he never went into full depth about this like Zion. And I've been on the fence about this. I'm not trying to take shots at nobody. So I'm glad, and I'm glad that Zion pointed something out that was very, very important. And that was he's open to being corrected and standing on it and coming in front of everybody and admitting that he was wrong. What's your question, King J? Because I seen some stuff in the chat. If you're not going to come with some serious, respectful dialogue, then I don't want to put you on the link. So what's your question, my brother? King J reacts. And the floor is open. Any questions? Benayah, you got anything? Please.
So when we going through scripture, right, and we trying to find a word and we look it up, because I remember you were saying that the Strong's was for babes or whatever, right? So do we use that to get the definition of words that's the King James may have? So you were saying basically the way we pronounce it, if that's that way, is false. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm definitely saying Lashawan Kodash is false. I'm also saying that the Strong's system of understanding biblical Hebrew is a great system, but that system was meant as training wheels. The more studied you are in Hebrew, the more you don't need the actual training wheels, similar to the ability to ride a bike. So when people who really, really know the language, these are the books that they study when they're reading biblical Hebrew. They'll study from the etymological dictionary of biblical Hebrew. They'll also read from what most scholars would effectively call the teacher's manual, which is Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia. Oh, there's a comment on the screen that won't be able to show the book. Okay, sorry. So yeah, these are effectively the books that you see scholars using. When you see people using Strong's, it's a strong, pun intended, it's a strong indication that they really don't have a grip on the language. I'm not saying Strong's has no value, but I'm certainly saying that once you could ride a bike, you don't need the training wheels. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, we have that book. Brother asked a question about the king and queen. Here it is on the screen. Ask the teacher to show us he or she wrote or king or queen. I don't know what he exactly mean by that. You understand that question, Zion?
Oh yeah, he wasn't posing that to me. He was posing that to people.
Okay.
Yeah, he was responding to something I put out in the presentation. In the presentation, I effectively demonstrated that unless you know how biblical Hebrew works, you wouldn't be able to differentiate between he or she or king or queen. So that's why he wrote that comment. Can someone show that? Show your teacher that can show that. Yeah.
So how would you spell Malak?
How would I spell what?
Malak.
What is Malak?
Well, I known it to be king. I know Malak to be angel, but you said that.
What? So let me ask you a question. You say Malak is king,
Malak.
and Malak is angel.
Yeah.
So what in if I could pull up my PowerPoint really quick again. I want to see what you're saying. Just for clarity.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So my PowerPoint is on the screen. I'm just gonna go back really quick and take a look at what you're saying. So this is the word you're talking about. And you said these three letters, you said one way Malak is king. You said Malak is angel. So my question to you is, from these three letters, where you're getting Malak?
I'm not getting Malak from this.
Well, that's the spelling. There's no other spelling for angel in the Bible, especially when you're using paleo.
But when you look it up in the Strong's, it gives you a different way of spelling it. That's why I asked you about the Strong's.
Well, it's a different way of spelling it because we're talking about a script that most people say they don't use, which is the Masoretic. But you go by Lashawan Kodash, which is based on paleo. So that means you should be able to demonstrate from the paleo where you're getting Malak from. Like if I'm understanding you correctly, I'm just trying to understand. You said Malak is king.
Yeah.
And I know that that's wrong, but I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. You now say that Malak is angel. So I ask you a simple question. Being that it's spelled the same way in paleo, where do you understand a difference? How do you get a difference?
When I go to the word angel in the text in the Bible, I go to the Strongs to look up the definition, and it spells it different.
Okay, so that's my point that I'm making.
Mhm.
You say you go by Lashawan Kodash. Lashawan Kodash is not based on Strong's, nor is it based on Masoretic Hebrew. It's based on the script you're looking at right now, which means since you say you follow Lashawan Kodash, you should be able to explain to us all how you can differentiate Malak from Mala'ak using these three letters.
Yeah, I know from the Tanakh. If we read in the Tanakh, which Hebrew is that?
With all due respect, good brother, I want to really say to you, again, just by hearing what you're saying, that there's a great gap in learning here, right? Because you say you go by Lashawan Kodash. Lashawan Kodash is not built by what Strong's is showing you. You don't go on Strong's and find paleo unless you could show me right now paleo on Strong's. Maybe I'll publicly apologize to you. But I happen to know for a fact Strong's don't use paleo. Also, the pronunciation that you get, Lashawan says, is based on paleo. So I'm going to ask you a second time. Based on paleo, which gives you the pronunciation you follow, how do you differentiate Malak from Mala'ak?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the letters you're going with over there. I'm not familiar with them. The ones that's on the left side is what I'm.
Okay. All right. So we'll do that now. So doing this on the left,
Mm-hmm.
how is one Malak and how is one Mala'ak?
The way it's spelled, it would be Mala, and that's the K, right? The Ka.
Well, we're looking at Hebrew characters, right? So explain to us using the characters we're looking at. Using these three characters that are right here, my arrow is on it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you differentiate Malak? Like when you look at this, you see Malak, but
Right.
you're now saying you also see Mala'ak.
No, I don't see Mala'ak. It's not spelled. I would spell it.
So how is Mala'ak spelled?
It would be the Ma, the La, right? And then the A, and then the K, the Ka.
There's a A in the word for the angel? That's what you're telling us?
Mala'ak, yeah. Now, if it was just Malak, is how Malak right there is what I see right there.
Okay.
I've always been known for king.
Okay, so where is the consonantal root?
What do you mean the consonantal root?
The shoresh, what's the root? Hebrew words are based on roots, right?
Right.
So regardless of a construct, right? Right, because what you're talking about now is a construct, things that we add to language in order to shift meaning, right? Mm-hmm. So based on the by the way, what is the root of this word that we're talking about in question?
Yeah, I would have to look and see what the Strong's say. I don't know it by heart. I just know when I see a word, when I'm reading from scripture, and I need to get the Hebrew word or the Hebrew definition, I use the Strong's or the blue letter Bible, the blue letter to basically help me with that, guide me through that, like training wheels, so you say. But that's what I have to stand on. That's what I use as the foundation. Now, as far as the pronunciation goes, I don't know the foundation to say whether I'm saying Malak or Malek. I just know that, from what I'm reading, that's what I see.
All right, I'm going to show you something on the screen right now that's going to aid you in what you're saying right here. Just give me a couple of seconds to find it, and then I'll have you explain it to us. I don't think that certain questions are bad questions. I don't think that there's a bad question because I do think that questions bring us to a place of discernment, right? So I think that that's a great thing. So towards your point, I'm going to put up what you say is Mala'ak, and I found it with the Aleph. So here we go. We are in give me a second. Okay, that is verse. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to blow it up now because you said before it couldn't be seen. And then I'm going to share my screen and everybody should be able to see what's on the screen. So here we go. Okay. Read this sentence for us and stop when you get to the word for angel? You still there? Good.
Yeah,
Still
my
there?
fault. Dude, my fault. It says Hana, Alake, Shala,
I'm
Mala.
sorry. I'm sorry. Say it again.
Hana, Anake.
Stop right there. Why'd you say K? Lashawan Kodash doesn't have an A. It has A and I.
Because it ends with a Y, so it gives it a different sound.
I agree.
Remember,
But based on Lashawan Kodash, that doesn't exist. It's just A and I.
I'm gonna keep it honest with you as far as the Lashawan Kadash.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the modern. When we looking at Tanakh, this is how I see it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not
So,
big with the
so,
camp on
so
West.
you do agree that there's problems with Lashawan Kodash, if I'm understanding you correctly. You do agree that there's some problems, right?
I mean, I believe that it's a consonant language, and we have certain ways of pronouncing things that may come off as vowel sounds. Like when, like a lot of people say Yeshua. Okay, so where is the U in Hebrew?
Yeah. So the U is a vowel that comes from a letter. That letter is shuruk, which is the letter wav. The letter wav can act as an O, it can act as an U. But again, not to stray from the point, you said, and you speak Lashawan Kodash, you call the word anke. Based based on the system that you're following, that's foreign to your own system. Lashawan Kodash don't have no A. It has A and it has I. You just created a diphthong. And I pointed out already that that's one of the problems with Lashawan Kodash. It doesn't account for diphthongs.
Okay, so how would you pronounce children? Say the word children or sons.
Bene.
Bene. So you're using the A. How you pronounce it? So what makes it different from me saying Anake than you saying Bene?
The difference is my system allows for that sound and your system doesn't.
Okay, so what sets the standard for the system? That's the point what I'm getting at. How do I know what I'm saying is wrong?
Well, so the way you know that the system is right is you fact check it through history. And that's why the scholarly consensus is that Masoretic Hebrew is accurate. And that's why there's no scholar that pushes Lashawan Kodash, because it's known that that's grossly inaccurate.
Okay, so back to the point at hand. The fourth word is mala'at. That's where I get mala'at from.
All right, but you could continue till you get there. You could continue till you get there. So you said Han, you pronounce the word Hana.
Hana, yes.
Okay. And you said Anke, that's fine. And what's this word?
Shalak.
Uh-huh. And what does this word mean?
Shalak. I would have to look that up. I'm not familiar with all the words. I just know how to sound out the letters. I'm still learning as well.
Okay. And so this word now, you could deal with this word. I'm fine with that.
Mala'ak.
Mala'ak. So, okay, so watch this. So you said this was ma.
Ma.
And you said this was
La.
And you said this is
Ah.
Uh-huh.
Ka. And we dropped the A.
Okay, so why didn't you pronounce this?
I did pronounce it. That's where the ak come from at the end of
No,
ma.
why? All right, let me be more specific. Why didn't you pronounce it with a vowel? Why didn't you pronounce it with a vowel?
What you mean?
So the next word, could you pronounce the next word for us? I'll explain what I mean. Could you pronounce the next word?
La fanayak.
Okay, so this is le faneka. Le faneka.
Okay, now let me ask you this. What does that word mean?
Before your face.
Before your face. So by
or
me
before your presence.
Fanayak and the way you just said it, is there a different meaning?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you
because ka,
looking at the same exact word?
I'm gonna explain it to you. The ka at the end, by the way, when you want to say your, when you want to say you, how do you do that in Hebrew?
Athana.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Ah, or ah.
Maybe I'm not hearing you.
Athana.
That's how you say. You said afanak.
Athana.
Where is that as the word for your or you? Where is that?
Let me bring it up.
You're saying it's a word and not a letter?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is good, family. This is really good. We got a few minutes left. I'm sorry if I couldn't get the link out.
Yeah, my fault. They can still ask me questions.
No. You good. You good. This is just good. You asking questions, bro. You need to learn this too. You just said you just learned. You know it better than me, but you got to look at what's being said and cross-examine what he's saying now.
Because my whole thing, I gotta look at my notes, man. But my whole thing is what I'm saying is because you're saying that you call it the Lashawan Kodash, right? So my whole thing is, are we saying words wrong, or are we just not pronouncing it the right way? You know what I'm saying? So like, will I be false for saying Yahuwah, and will he be false for saying Yahuwah? But we know that we know what we're talking about.
Yes, because the reason why that's wrong is because let's use English as an example. In English, we often say, you might hear someone that speaks the English language perfect, like let's say someone from the UK, and they might hear us say tomato, and they might say in the UK, no, we say tomato. You could literally show them up and be like, it doesn't matter. And they're going to say, yeah, it does matter because pronunciation matters. And you could say why. And then that's when they're stuck. Why are they stuck? In English, there's no difference between tomato and tomato because it's the same word. Tomato is not a different word from tomato in English, but that doesn't work in Hebrew. Because hold on. That doesn't work in Hebrew because Melech is a king. Malach is an angel. And Molech is the god of the Moabites. So in English, tomato, tomato, or different pronunciations for a word doesn't matter so long as the different pronunciation doesn't produce a new word. But in Hebrew, it matters. If you're going to say Yahuwah, that no longer means the eternal one. There's a grammatic function within the vocalization that will determine whether we're calling the creator the eternal one, right? So when you say Yahuwah, or when you say Yahweh Shai for Jesus in Hebrew, you're also killing the meaning of the word because by butchering the pronunciation, you're now changing the word because as I established earlier, vocalization determines meaning in Hebrew. For instance, Aleph is one. And how do we know that? Well, let me just scroll all the way up really quick. By the way, we're in Exodus chapter 20, verse 3, right? Let me come out and let me go now to Genesis. And I'll start at 1. Oh, let me show everybody that again. This is the book of Genesis. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4, as in chapters. So you should already know, everybody, that in order to get numbers in Hebrew, you need the actual letters, right? The letters function as numbers. That's an important feature. So again, now, if I were to click on it, and we start at the very beginning, you have the word Bereshit. Okay. Bereshit means in the beginning. But look at the first 3 letters, Bere. That can have the same meaning as bara. Absolutely can have the same meaning. This one means in the beginning. This one means create. See how vocalization contributed here?
I'm looking at 2 different words though.
You're looking at 2 different words clearly here. But I'm saying, following the rules of Lashawan Kodash, this first part of the word is pronounced bara. That's changing the meaning because bara is right here and it clearly means to create. This word is in the beginning. So I'm showing you with the very first word of the Bible, following Lashawan Kodash, you are literally butchering the meaning. Because in Lashawan Kodash, you're going to tell me that this is bara. And how do you pronounce it, by the way, just for clarity?
Ba-ra-ashat. Oh, my fault. Ba-ra-ashayat.
Ba-ra-ashayat.
Letter, you know what I'm saying? I pronounce it the way the lettering is. So the ba-ra-ashayat.
Okay, that's fine. So you still have bara. Okay.
Right.
Bara in
I was taught means in. So when we saying this word, we're looking at 2 words right here that says in beginning.
Okay. So what's the root of the word?
The root of what? Barashayaf?
Yeah.
The beginning.
No. What part of the word is the actual root?
I don't know. I don't really understand what you mean when you say the root word, because we would have to go back to the Strongs, right?
No, you wouldn't have to go back to the strong, brother, because if you know the language, you know the language. That's what I'm trying. That's the point I'm trying to make with you here.
We coming from an aspect of somebody learning the language. We still learning. We don't
Okay,
know the language like that, like how you do. But when
okay,
you said that the
okay,
Strongs was valid, I
okay,
learned it in the Strongs. I'm
okay. So
pronouncing the way the Strongs teach you the definition as well as how to pronounce a word.
that's fine. I'll go by that, right? Because I'm understanding where you're at, and I want to meet you where you're at. The point for me is never to try to go above my brothers. That's why I'm being very careful with my questions with you too. I'm understanding where you're at, so I'm actually not trying to go above where you're at. I want to make sure we keep it at a level that you can follow, and the conversation even makes sense. To the right, I have the word bara highlighted, and it shows you bara means to create, shape, or form. Based on your pronunciation, you will have to change the meaning of the first word because your pronunciation bara would yield create. That's the point I'm making with you. It wouldn't yield in the beginning.
I'm not understanding, brother, where you're coming from. I'm just not understanding how is the pronunciation changing a meaning.
Okay, I'll give it to you another way. I'll give it to you another way. How do you say creator?
Creator, I don't know. I don't know how to say creator.
It's the same word right here. See that? The word for create can become creator. So my next question is, how does this word become creator?
It looks to me like they took it from the beginning word, Barashayah.
So no. And I'm gonna keep this as simple as I possibly can. This is the word for create, and I know you agree with it because you know that this is the word for create. You said it. So from create, even in English, you can get creator. But being that this is Hebrew, I'm going to ask you, looking at this word, how do you get creator? What do you do?
I'm lost.
Okay, so what I'm saying to you, by the way, if you was to ask anybody that knows Hebrew, it's very, very basic. I'm not asking you anything that's complex. In order to get creator, you change the pronunciation to bore. So if I was to go on the screen right now and type in bore, you would see that that's how you write creator.
And
That's
if I
it.
look that word up, Bare or Bara, however you want to say it, it's going to say creator.
I got better than that. I'll show it live. Okay, I'll show it live.
And after this, I will take this last question, man, and I won't keep you on up too long, man.
Okay. All right. So allow me just once more, good brother, just for this last point, to share my screen one last time. Here we go.
Yeah, this is needed, though. We need this.
I'm going to blow it up so it's very clear. And watch that what I said was absolutely true. So, okay. The Hebrew word for creator from the root bara is bo-re, often used as a title for God, meaning the creator. If you look clearly right here, that's the vowel kolam. That's where you get the O sound. So when you pronounce it as bo-re, it's creator. That was a very simple question. There was nothing complex.
Written, that's how they pronounced it, Bore.
Say your question again, good brother.
Scriptures was written. That's how they would pronounce it, Bore.
Be very slow. I want to make sure I'm hearing you clear.
Scripture was written, right? When the original scrolls was written.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how they pronounce it. You saying that's the pure tongue. Are you saying what you're teaching in Zephaniah 3:9 when he returned with the holy language, we're going to be pronouncing it Bore? How you saying?
Absolutely. And by the way, since you're talking about Zephaniah 3:9, what do you say that means?
When he brings back the pure language.
And what's the pure language?
Hebrew.
Okay. And who is he giving that pure language to?
The people.
What people?
Everybody.
No, not everybody. We already have the pure language. We already have Hebrew. The text says, I will give it to the peoples. It uses the Hebrew word amim. This is another problem in the Israelite community, the mistranslation of Zephaniah 3 and 9. Israelites that don't know Hebrew, when everything else fails, they say, well, it doesn't matter because none of us know Hebrew, because Zephaniah 3 and 8 or 3 and 9 says the Creator is going to restore us to the pure language. No, it doesn't. It says, then I will convert the peoples, amim, to speak a pure language. If I Google right now, and I will, Hebrew word amim, it's a reference to the nations, the peoples. It's not a reference to the children of Israel.
Everybody.
Brother, it's a reference to the nations of the world. We are not
considered Gentiles.
Brother, even on the screen, you could see it. The Hebrew word amim means peoples or nations, serving as the plural of people, often used in the Bible to refer to the nations of the world, sometimes in contrast to Israel, different. So right. Israel is not, if you're saying right, you're missing the point. So I wouldn't say right.
Listen,
the point that I'm
the language come through. The language is going to come to everybody of the world. Nations.
I'll tell you what, brother. If you have it figured out, you can follow the Hebrew that you follow. I've been studying the language for 30 years. If you have so much built up in you that I can't be wrong, then I can't convince you.
Wrong, brother. What I'm saying is we want to know what are you standing on to be right?
I actually showed you, brother, and I showed you in several different ways.
You brought up something that all right, go ahead.
All right. So yeah, no doubt. So we're gonna move forward to this last question right here. Elder Barawak, can you ask him about the Kabbalah and if it's magic?
The word Kabbalah means received. And if the word Kabbalah means magic, then I guess y'all got to throw out the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs says receive wisdom. Since y'all follow strong, some of y'all, go look up what is the Hebrew word for received. It's right there, Kabbalah. Yikes.
All right, family. Definitely glad that Zion came on. Anybody have any differences or whatever the case may be, and I'm pretty sure he's welcome. He welcomes anybody to have a live dialogue completely, just him and that person. And I know we didn't have enough time to do that, but I seen some things that he pointed out very important in the Dead Sea Scrolls, especially how the lettering changed and the vowel was used in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I subscribe to the Dead Sea Scrolls as being legit, and you pointed out some very important things. My brother, he may disagree, and that's okay. We all still walk in love and disagree. I will say this. Okay, hold on. And I will. This is the last question, Zion. Ask Zion why the Patak and the Sagol are not pronounced in other systems.
So that's absolutely incorrect. He's referring to the Babylonian system. He's also referring to the Palestinian system, right? There's a Palestinian, there's a Tiberian, there's a Babylonian. The only difference between the system is they use different ways of marking the vowels, but they're using the same vowels. So I can tell that whoever put together the question isn't familiar with the three systems in full. When you look at the Babylonian markings or the Babylonian Nikud, they place the markings on the top. Whether it's on the top or whether it's on the bottom, it's still producing the same sound. The difference between predominantly the Babylonian and the Palestinian is where they're placing the marking. It's not about the difference in sound or not pronouncing it. And okay.
All right. So with that being said, family, I'm going to close this out saying this. Anybody that wants to have a live dialogue with Zion, email me and set it up, and he can go on his platform or whatever. I don't think I'm definitely moving forward to learning this Hebrew. I'm already in his class. I suggest that people, hit the like button, family. None of y'all didn't hit the like button. A lot of y'all in here, please, it don't cost not a dime. Please hit the like button and share the video. I understand that we disagree, but one thing, like I said about me, I like to look at all the options. And the reason why I'm leaning towards this is because the way I'm talking right now and the way I'm speaking right now, I want to be saying that in Hebrew. That's how I want to be doing. I don't want to be reading biblical scriptures to my wife in Hebrew. I mean, we can do that. That's good with the Lashon Kodash, but we might be butchering certain words and all that, right? And we use it strong. I see all that. But to sit here and talk to my wife and pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm going to the store, you need anything? I want to be able to conduct the language just like that. And I think that's more important to me. So I can't knock my brother or my former teacher or anybody else to persuade them. But I'm telling you, in my opinion, and my recommendation, that we learn this Hebrew. We learn this Hebrew is more important, it's more foundational, and I learned something very powerful. There are vowels in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they're different from what we've seen in the Masoretic text. So we got to be careful if we lean in on the Masoretic text. And then if we're saying for at the end of the day that the Hebrew we speaking is ancient, well, the Masoretic text is not ancient. It's not paleo.
That's right.
So that's important too to me that I just learned. So I don't know it all. Those who know it all, reach out to him and show us that he's wrong. So all praise to Yahweh, Zion. I really, really, man, appreciate you, man. I know some people going to reach out to me about your class because I can see I read some of the stuff in the chat. And I'm glad I did this because I felt like in my spirit, this is where we need to go. I'm not going to down my brothers with the Lashon Kodash, or we don't even got to call it that. The Hebrew that we're reading off the Masoretic text, I'm not going to down them, but I'm not going to let nobody persuade me. And when you see me on Facebook or whatever, and I'm saying shalom or this, I'm learning. So you can talk, bite back, bite me, and talk about how false I am. But I'm going to learn this Hebrew, and I'm going to be speaking it fluently before it's over with. And I thank you, my brother. And anything you got to say, your final words, my brother?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to say is thank you for allowing me on the platform. It's always an honor to have the ability to share, especially among the creative people. We're all at different levels of learning, different experiences, and different journeys. But some way, somehow, we will all connect, maybe the glory of the Creator. I lastly want to say, in my early days of debating the Kemetic community, the stumbling block that I continued to run into was they would always say to me, Zion, you don't know how to read the writing on the wall. All of the interpretations that you're going by is based on European mistranslations. And I had to realize that they were actually right, because even from Hebrew, I understand that if you don't learn language, you're going to have a hard time translating the text. So that's when I started to learn Medu Neter. I learned with teachers. I now teach Medu Neter. So what is the takeaway from that? When you disagree with someone, am I on the screen? Oh, thank you. When you disagree with someone, you should always and at least disagree from a place of knowledge. It's always a bad look in the community when you barely have a grip on something, but you feel so passionate about why someone's wrong. When we ask questions to learn. We don't ask questions because we assume that the person we're speaking to is wrong. One of the things that is required for, I don't want to say mastery, but functioning well in life and functioning well in our understanding of scripture and the language is humility. And one thing that's beautiful about humility is that it's a given. We all have it. The problem is that we may not all be acting on it. But this was a huge honor. I'm very, very thankful, and I'll come back anytime, good brother. Thank you very much for the time and the opportunity and the space to give glory to God, especially in the presence of his people.
All praises. Yeah, somebody did ask for a part 2, so we might do that down the line. But for y'all that don't know, I do have consecutive interviews up. I got a brother from Lagos, Nigeria, Yoruba tribe next week. And then I got Edith Bruder coming up from Black Jews of Africa. She's coming up. And then I have David Rowe. Y'all keep him in prayer. Once he gets through his health issues, he's going to be coming on doing a presentation on Exodus. He's an Egyptologist. Now, I want to bear witness to what Zion said. I seen him debate this brother named Tahuti, and Zion read hieroglyphics, and this brother could not read it at all. And he was supposed to have been a top leader in the Kemetic community. I watched that dialogue and debate, and it was shameful. And this brother is a Kemetic teacher, and Zion himself, embarrassed that man. So I forgot that he does teaches the Metanetta as well. So yeah, family, this ain't about who's right and who's wrong. It's about just trying to have the truth and learn. And I'm one of the students that if I don't really know everything, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. Ben Ayah, final closing. Go ahead, bro.
No, I just wanted to say much love to the brother Zion. We passionate about what we believe. No disrespect. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you coming on here. I wish we could build off the air a little more. Maybe I just need a little bit more time to really feel exactly where you're coming from. You know what I'm saying? But no hostility, no disrespect or nothing like that. I respect what you do, and shalom to you. All right.
Shalom to you, brother. I really appreciate that, man. The sweetest part about conversation is where we figure out at the end that no matter if we agree or disagree, that we have a common enemy, we have a common goal. And when we talk about nationality and ethnicity, if we share that, then we know that we're also brothers, which means there should be no grievance and no difference bigger than the brotherhood. And we should always be able to come back. So I appreciate you, brother. I'm thankful that, you appreciate me and have enough patience to even hear me out. I've been in settings over the years where people are so forceful about opinions that they just drown you out. You can't even talk. So I appreciate it, brother. And I would certainly say to you, man, Elder Barak is an amazing brother, and he knows that I'm always available to people who have a sincere heart. If you want to reach out to me, you can definitely reach out to me through him. That's absolutely fine. We could go into some of these topics far more in depth behind the scenes, and it'd be a great moment, man. I'd love to hear more about where you're coming from, and you can certainly be exposed to a little bit more from where I'm coming from. But much love to you, brother. I pray that the Creator bless you in your journey, and I pray that you continue to do the great work, man. We all have work to do.
All praises. And at the end of the day, family, subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear good interviews and good information, please subscribe to the channel. Share the video. If you don't like what we teach over there, that's fine. But I guarantee you'll like the quality interviews that I bring out. And I'm only bringing scholarship. And with that being said, shalom to everybody. Blessings. Shalom to my brothers and sisters. And shalom to Israel.
Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I made a promise, can't nobody take it. I chose to put you above all the nations. Out of your graves, I chose to awaken. We made a covenant, don't you forsake it. Come get protected while they going crazy. Israel, my firstborn, my baby. Israel, my firstborn, my baby. I woke you up in your land of captivity. I do not change, I want you to remember me. Laws and commandments, I gave you the remedy. Go read the testimonies for your memory. I sent them prophets, but you wasn't hearing me. I come to you if you really come near to me. I heard your cry, now it's time to take it to me. I know what got you from all of your enemies. Who you know open the sea. Them waters was bitter, but I made it sweet. In case you ain't know how to swim, I'm your protector, so I made you walk on your feet. This a reminder you married to me. I just want you to be all I called you to be. They called you niggas, but I made you priests. I'm about to give you back everything. I'm sending plays for you. I'm sending boys drying up rivers. I leave them dead for you. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You heard what I said for you. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You heard what I said for you. For you, you only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel. I'm the reason you in captivity. We made a covenant, you ain't remember me. You broke the covenant, I sent your enemy. Get out my lane since you wasn't fearing me. I'm the reason they put you in chains. I'm the reason they switched up your name. I'm the reason why you in the hood. I'm the reason of all your pain. I'm sending flows fast, daily. Think I don't love you. Y'all my babies. Gave my son, must be crazy. Come out that system, come out of that lady. They got that military, it would not phase me. It would not move me, it would not graze me. Remember Egypt, I did all that for my people. You only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. You only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel.